Wife admitted to having an ongoing affair with her boss, who's married with 2 kids after only being married to me for 4 months. Hi all, I really appreciate this community and found it very helpful throughout this process, so I'd like to share a truncated version of my story. My now ex-wife and I had been together for about 6 years before we got married last June of 2021. Getting married during a pandemic wasn't easy, but we had a wonderful wedding, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. Fast forward a few months later, and my wife became a completely different person. She opted to go to the office regularly, while I continued to work from home. We both worked from home throughout the pandemic. She worked for a big firm, so the longer hours seemed to be par for the course, but she no longer wanted to spend quality time with me on the weekends, spending a lot of time with her horse, and began to downplay my achievements, claiming I was no longer a go-getter, even though I was doing very well at work. People say that the first year of marriage can be hard, so I started taking my wife on regular date nights to reinvigorate our relationship, but she remained withdrawn and judgmental, which was a big blow to my self-esteem. I racked my brain thinking of what I might have done to make her act and feel this way, but I couldn't come up with anything plausible, so I started to lose sleep thinking I was possibly losing my wife to someone else. These were the worst months of my life, because I couldn't believe you could lose the person you married so shortly after tying the knot. So I convinced myself it was the pressure of her job that was causing her to act this way, and I opted to suppress the negative thoughts to avoid exacerbating the issues we were having. She was actually gaslighting me the whole time, and I just didn't know it. D-Day. I organized a romantic weekend by the beach despite my suspicions, in order to try and revive what we had prior to our marriage. I thought this would renew our bond, but she became more brazen with her disdain. I told her I loved her on our way to dinner. She didn't even reciprocate. And later that evening she had me take a not safe for work photo of her in a bubble bath, and when I mentioned that it was a bit too scandalous for social media, she responded, "That's not what I'm using it for." We have been intimate throughout our marriage, but she refused to be intimate with me on this trip. That's when I finally confronted her on my suspicions and demanded she be honest with me. She denied everything for a while, but I convinced her I had proof when I didn't, and she finally confessed. She admitted to sleeping with her boss on numerous occasions for months and that he was pressuring her to leave me. I went through a panic attack, which I never experienced before, and after finally calming down, I realized what a fool she was for falling for his lies. I told her I was going to inform his wife, and she responded, "She'll find out, but you won't be the one to tell her." That's when I knew my ex-wife had convinced herself she was going to run away with her boss. It was sick and a little evil, and I realized that my ex-wife was never who I married. The real her was this manipulative and vile stranger. She changed my flight that night and sent me to my parents' house, and told me she would mail me some boxes of my clothes. I contacted the boss's wife via social media as soon as I got to the airport, and that's when all hell broke loose. Long story short, the boss never planned on leaving his family, and in order to try and save his marriage, he distanced himself from my ex-wife as quickly as possible. Apparently, HR had to get involved, and my ex-wife quickly gained a reputation around her office. She cried and pleaded with me to take her back, but I told her she made the decision, and I'm just completing her plan. Aftermath. Success is the best revenge. Life has been good now that the dust has settled. I live near some of my closest friends and found a great job in California. I'm learning to love myself again and have realized that my ex-wife's opinion of me during our marriage is not a reflection of who I am or my inherent value. I'm truly happier without her, and while I occasionally feel disheartened by what transpired, I feel blessed that this truth came to light before we had kids. Now for the top comments. Wow, I can't believe she had you take a picture of her in the bathtub for her boss. These cheaters are seriously twisted in the head. Congrats on exiting that situation. I bet it excited her to know her husband was taking it for her affair partner. What a twisted individual. Hilarious how it backfired on her, with the boss pressuring her to leave OP, meanwhile he had no intention of leaving his wife for her. At least the affair partner was taking out the trash for OP. Yeah, they are. My soon-to-be ex-wife was planning on inviting her affair partner over with his girlfriend to our place for the Super Bowl. They both agreed that it would be amazing, and that it would be their little inside thing. The mindset of a cheater is truly evil and devious. 3.5 months into divorce. Come on. It will really be very helpful for some of us if you can share the process by which you were able to have seemingly been able to detach from your partner rather quickly and with minimal damage. Most of us here are still reeling even after a year. Thanks. It is not easy and the pain still lingers. But you have to focus on yourself and improving yourself in any way you can. Exercising, eating better, adventuring, spending more time with friends and family. It all helped me cope with the trauma. I even worked hard to refine my resume and reached out to connections to find new job opportunities. It's not that I disliked my previous job, but I wanted a complete reset. I focused a lot of my energy at my new job to cement myself within the organization and distract myself from the pain. I still have trouble sleeping some nights, but as I got healthier and happier, I exuded a confidence that attracted the people around me. The best thing you can do is show growth and maturation despite these embarrassing circumstances. Show others that your ex does not define you, and those around will start to admire you for a quality they never knew you had. Everything takes time, and I promise you it was not easy for me in the early stages. But use this opportunity to find yourself again and evolve. Whatever happened to the ex-wife? Did she lose her job? Did the boss lose his job? What happened to the boss? Is there any chance they will end up together? How did her family and friends react to the news of her infidelity? They're not ending up together. HR set forth rules that no longer allowed them to work on cases together to protect the firm from liability, but my ex-wife inevitably left and found a new job. I don't know how her family and friends reacted, since I don't know what kind of story she spun for them, but her father reached out to me via text with some very kind words. That was very big of him to do that, and I am very grateful for his kindness. OP, thanks for your comment on the process for recovery, which is right on. Success is the best revenge. My story is similar to yours, going back to the 80s, where we all worked together. My ex-wife also thought that her and affair partner would ride off into the sunset, but soon realized that he just wanted to hook up. I posted my story in hopes that some betrayed spouse may listen to an old man, and with the process you've mentioned and what I'm about to say, will get them on their way. Like you, for me it was about self-improvement and reshaping my life. I wanted my ex to be sorry of the choices that she made. To the betrayed, if you've had enough, reached your threshold for pain, and want to break away from a codependent relationship, as OP states, exercise, join a gym, and do physical activity. I played sports and took karate with my kids. Spend as much time with your kids, if you have them. This will help them get through what your partner has destroyed. Change your hair, get a new wardrobe which helps restore self-esteem and confidence. Be social and visit family and friends who are your support. Think about how to enhance or even change your career. I took night classes, where I met my wife of 36 years. At the same time, getting promotions on the same job, reaching a top position in management. She remained there, but a fair partner was fired. I sit back in retirement after a successful career, happily married to the love of my life, and enjoying our grown children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Just a glimpse into a possible future for anyone who chooses themselves and their children. My oldest son gave a speech at a function describing me as accomplished and hero. My heart burst. Thank you for sharing this. That glimpse into the future certainly gives me confidence and puts me at ease. Also, love that you got the credit you deserve from your eldest son. Kids recognize the sacrifices in the long run. I still find it incredulous the twisted mindscape that cheaters create. They need to somehow invent justification for their choice to cheat, and voila, an entire fantasy landscape springs into existence full of running away. What the heck is this even? As if they are both just going to quit their jobs and potentially walk away from any children involved to move away and live happily ever after. And just being with each other in happiness and love, without the outside world ever intruding on them. And just as inexplicably, they want to come home once the bubble pops and they are left with the consequences of their actions. Sadly and surprisingly, many betrayed spouses are willing to take back their betrayer because they still felt the love they had for that person, even though that person demonstrated unequivocally that they don't have the same feelings for you. What is it about our society that people feel entitled to lie and cheat and be just awful partners, but somehow still feel entitled to be in a relationship with the person they are betraying in such an awful manner? I told my ex-wife that if she felt any disdain for me to excuse her actions, so be it. But what did the boss's wife and kids ever do to her? She even had me meet the boss and his wife over lunch. It was an extremely selfish and stupid act on her part. To be honest, I may have worked on it if it was a one-time thing and she was truly remorseful. But to go back to him on numerous occasions and plot to leave me made the situation a very painful no-brainer. Your ex met her affair partner with his wife. Was this after you blew up their affair? Is your ex-wife's affair partner still married? Did he and your ex-wife get fired from their jobs? This was before I blew up their affair. I'm not sure, but I think affair partner stayed married for the kids. Now for the last story. I saw her after a few years. Wow. My ex and I share a friend group. We met them together and have known them for years. A few people decided not to associate with her anymore after what she did to me, but most people accept her friendship still, and that's okay with me. We were together a decade and had known these people the last 4 years of that. A couple days ago my friends threw a party, and on the way, someone told me she would be there. I said that's fine, and jokingly said she'll just have to deal with how good I look. I always expect the likelihood of her being at a party with these friends, but it hasn't happened in 3 years. I was prepared for feelings and maybe some physical avoidance. I got there, was having a good time, and then saw someone I didn't recognize at all. I started walking in that direction, and then it hit me. It was her, plus about 60 to 80 pounds, and she was rather petite before. No fat shaming, but it was wild to not be able to recognize her. Her voice was so ruined from cigarettes that I couldn't recognize that either. Anyway, later in the night, I thought I saw her again, but it was someone else. Then I realized I just couldn't recognize her anymore, and it felt really good. I do look freaking awesome right now too. I cut in my first six-pack a couple years back, and have put my health in a much higher priority than it used to be. I wonder if she had a hard time recognizing me. It also made me realize that the extra weight I had, about 80 to 90 pounds extra, was because I didn't care about myself when I was with her. I wondered if the weight she put on was partially from shame of what she did to me. I met her boyfriend. He came up and introduced himself to me. She didn't talk to me, as I told her in a letter long ago to pretend she doesn't know me and doesn't want to know me because I appear totally uninteresting, and I'll give her the same respect. She complied, and that also felt empowering. He wasn't who she cheated with, and he was actually a lot like me. I hope she doesn't treat him how she treated me, because he seemed like a genuinely good person. The guy she cheated with and started a relationship with was an abusive coke dealer and was an enabler during a time that she was spiraling into addiction, lying to me about it, and refusing my help, which was very non-aggressive, just concerned and looking for ways I could help her, but she didn't want help, she wanted coke. Apparently, her parents had to lock him out of a family holiday dinner for hitting her. Those were always such warm bonding times for the family. It's wild to think of it getting violent. Last night I had a nightmare that I was at a small gathering, and she showed up looking how she used to, and I used the bathroom. When I came out, everyone was gone because she had convinced them all to go to a show while I was in the bathroom. It was frustrating, and I couldn't reach anyone and drove into town, finding a friend at a gas station and hanging out with him. It was pretty chill, and I realized that just connecting with someone who cared about me was much more important than going out and getting crazy. I woke up feeling pretty good about it. I think my mind is telling me there is still trauma, but I am healing well. I was able to turn around the nightmare into something much better, and it seems like a reflection of my life. I'm feeling pretty good about things. Oh, and last night I had a date, the first one in over 4 years, and it went really well. Keep your stick on the ice, survivors. You can make it to the next step, which is thriving. Just keep doing what you need to for yourself. Love yourself, build yourself, be with people who respect and love you, let the bad feels come and go, hold on to the good feels, identify not with what has happened to you, but with the way you can overcome it, and create beauty from destruction. It is all there, and it can be so hard to find. Just look into yourself and focus on what brings you love and motivation. Sometimes it takes practice, patience, going through the motions even if you don't feel like it, and telling yourself positive things that don't feel true at times. Don't let it feel like a waste of time. Fight that feeling and say, no, F you, sad me. I'm going to force myself to have a good day. Even with clinical depression, I have been able to turn around a day sometimes just by putting myself on a bicycle or walking out into the woods in a bad mood, not feeling like it, and coming back on a much better one. Please know you are loved, you are important, you will overcome this, you will thrive. As a great man once said, my ex said she gave me the best years of her life. I saw a recent picture of her, and I guess she was right. That's rich. I really love what you wrote, and I'll probably be reading the last few paragraphs every day this week to try to pull myself out of the slump I've been in. I'm really happy for you, OP. You have worked really hard on yourself and have chosen some well-deserved happiness, and I can almost see you shining from where I am. I really appreciate it, glad my words can help. You deserve to feel loved, especially by yourself. Any advice that helped you work on yourself? I realized that there were a lot of days at the beginning where I didn't want to do anything at all. I just pushed myself to either choose one act of self-love or self-improvement every day. Self-love and self-improvement are pathways to each other. You love yourself, you'll want to improve. You improve, you'll appreciate yourself more. So, I would choose things like going out for a bike ride or learning a new hobby or skill, getting the nice steak at the market instead of the cheapest one, or enrolling in a course. I would take myself on a date. Think to myself, where would I go if I was trying to impress someone? And take myself there. It sometimes felt forced, but just going through the motions, it would help me start to feel it. I also dropped most carbs. They trigger your dopamine receptors and can worsen depression. It was tough at first, like getting through an addiction literally, but after a couple weeks, you don't even care about pasta or sugars or whatever.